I think we're going to try to go quickly, right, before the rain comes. I did want to take a few minutes, and thanks for coming. Before we talk about Miami Valley Hospital, we had 2 homicides also this past weekend that were like ambush shootings. We don't think they're associated with each other in any way, but we had one Sunday morning, late Saturday night, Sunday morning about 3 o'clock in the morning, over at 2152 North Gettysburg. And unfortunately, we had a young man by the name of Ronaldo Taylor who was shot numerous times and killed in a parking lot there. And we are asking for the community's help to call the Dayton Police Department, to call Miami Valley Crime Stoppers at 22-STOP about this crime. This is a photograph of the parking lot prior to the shooting occurring. I know this isn't a very good photograph, but let me hold it up here for you. This is from surveillance footage of the crime just prior to the shooting happened, and our victim was shot and murdered right up in here. And when this murder happened, I went out yesterday and counted the parking spaces. There were around 342 cars in the parking lot when this murder happened. There were numerous people in the parking lot when this happened. And right now we need the community's help. We need some of these folks to step forward who were actually there and let us know who killed this young man and shot him numerous times in the back and other places on his body in the parking lot that day. We have very few leads to go on, very few tips. A lot of people just went ahead and left, didn't hang around to talk to the police. So we are asking the community and those folks that were there to call the police and call Crime Stoppers. There's a cash reward. You will remain anonymous, but we need help in solving this crime. We also had a murder also that night over in East Dayton, over on Parkview Avenue. That address is 733 Parkview Avenue. This guy was sitting on his neighbor's porch, talking to the neighbor, when several guys came up to him and actually shot him several times and killed him on the front porch as well. So we're working both of those cases. Tips are great. We saw most of our cases on tips from the community, and we need them to step forward and help us out in these cases here. So that's all I wanted to say about those, unless you have any other questions. And I have if you want to answer. I know yesterday, I appreciate your patience. I couldn't answer a lot of questions at Miami Valley Hospital. It was such a fluid scene then. Now I have more information. We had the autopsy this morning of the victim, security guards. Any questions you may have, if you want to let me know, I'll do the best I can to answer them for you.
Yeah, Major, can you just start off, do you know can you tell us now how many shots were fired inside the hospital?
We believe only one shot was fired in the hospital. Our victim was struck in the back of the neck with one round. He was also, clearly there was a large struggle that took place in this room. He had several skull fractures, wounds to both the front and back of his head, and he had some lacerations to his fist where he was fighting back. Our victim is a 78-year-old male. He's also a veteran who served his country, and he is the United States Marine Corps. And it really another senseless tragedy that occurred there.
Do you know how long the security guard had been working for?
I don't know exactly how long he's been employed with Merchant Security, but I know he is like their go-to guard. I guess he works a lot to support his family, and he's used a lot for security like this.
What part of the hospital was the inmate in? Was this like an open ER room, or do they usually transfer inmates to?
He was in a private room, in the emergency room, talking. We're still trying to figure things out because really we have no actual witnesses to the shooting. We do know from a nurse that 30 minutes before this happened, he was handcuffed and secured. There was a handcuff on the actual bed rail, and there were leg shackles on the floor that had been taken off, and there was a handcuff key in the leg shackles. I don't know if we'll ever really know. Was he handcuffed when this happened, or how this all happened? Because there was no one there.
You just don't know whether the security guard uncuffed him, or if he kind of uncuffed himself.
We don't know, and we may never know.
Did this I guess, fight or whatever that occurred between them, did this happen inside the hospital room itself, or was it in the hallway?
in the actual hospital room itself.
Like no like surveillance.
Yeah, a nurse was actually heard some noises, had went down that way, and as she was approaching, she noticed the light was off in the room, and our suspect with the gun came running out with a gun.
Is there video of him running out of the room?
Yeah, we have reviewed the video. There's no actual video of the room. There's video in the hallways of the hospital and in the emergency room, like waiting areas you walk in, and it was alarming to watch because this is definitely a tragedy with what we had happen here, but it could have been so much more worse. This man was running through the hallway, pointing guns at people in the hallway, people ducking for cover. So, I mean, it's a tragedy for sure that our victim was killed, but it could have been a lot worse than it was. So we actually, we dodged a tragedy here in Dayton yesterday.
Well, yeah, and you know, talking about yesterday, there's also a shooting in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at a different hospital. And I mean, in light of that, does the Dayton Police Department believe that security might need to increase in hospitals in the area to deter or stop things like this from happening? Or?
Do you mean increased police presence in
Correct.
hospitals?
Yes.
Well, like a lot of the hospitals, Miami Valley Hospital, for example, they have their own police department. They are certified through the state just like we are. So they have their officers, we have ours. We're there a lot. We had an officer there yesterday just for a meeting when this all happened and when it all kicked off. So we're always here to support, you know, our hospitals and our community, but they also have their own police departments and things like that too.
I know yesterday there was talk about handcuffs and the policies of keeping the inmates cuffed, and you had mentioned, I believe it was you, that during procedures, sometimes the inmates are uncuffed. Is it your understanding now that there was no procedure taking place at the time the inmate was?
We're still going through like all the medical records still to kind of find that out, but it's my understanding at the time this happened there was no actual procedure. So sometimes if someone's, you know, gravely wounded, you know, we can't cuff them because they can be rolled over, you know, in an emergency situation. But to my knowledge, and so far, we don't know of any procedure taking place that would cause him to be unhandcuffed at this time.
Is it commonplace for inmates to be escorted by a lone corrections officer?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, it all kind of depends on what they're there for. This guy was there, with my understanding, for detox purposes. I have his criminal history here with me if you want me to go through it. He has some stuff there, but really nothing that would indicate violence. If we have a guy who, by all means, is a security threat, we have two officers there with him, not just one.
What would indicate?
We have different policies, right?
We do. We have different policies than merchant security does, yeah.
What would indicate violence, you know, in an inmate when you're trying to make that decision, you know?
Well, yeah, so are they in there for like felony assault on a police officer, for shooting somebody, for a violent crime? That's pretty much, you know, what we tend to look and make our assessments of. That's why these guards are armed, and our guard was armed.
Are you able to share the identities of the victim or the suspect at this point? Do you have that
The
information?
names?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Our victim is Daryl Holderman. He's a white male, 78. And the suspect, who's also deceased, is Brian Booth, white male, 30 years old. He was arrested for disorderly conduct in 2011, misdemeanor theft in 2014, possession of drug abuse instruments is like a syringe in 2014, misdemeanor theft 2015, burglary 2015. That's where he was actually given 5 years of community control, which is like probation. Receiving stolen property in 2015 and possession of drug instruments again in 2021. And he had a warrant through Warren County Sheriff's Office for possession of drug instruments, probation violation, and a warrant through MCSO for the above mentioned burglary.
Is there anything that may have led to this? Did he not maybe known the guard at all? Have they?
We really don't know what led to this, because usually this doesn't happen. I mean, he's facing a probation violation for a burglary, which isn't a violent offense. So I don't know why he chose to do what he did.
Was he under the influence of any substances at the moment?
I can't comment like on his medical stuff. I just know he was actually there for detox purposes. So there's some sort of alcohol or substance he was detoxing from.
You said that he had pointed guns at medical staff
Yeah, I mean, he's walking through the hallway pointing. It appears from the video he's trying to find his way out of there, and he's pointing guns in the hallway at people until he actually finds the exit and he comes out, kind of like right there, where you walk in the emergency room waiting area, and there's police officers there from Miami Valley. There's civilian people. There's workers. And he's pointing a gun at everybody.
Will you be releasing that video at all?
I'm sorry.
Will you be releasing that video?
I'm not sure yet. That's probably I don't think that we will, but I don't know yet.
Is there any witness accounts at all?
We do have some witnesses account, not to the actual murder itself, but for him like leaving the hospital, going into the parking lot, and shooting himself.
Very good. Serena?
Can I see that? I want to make sure I spell their names right.
Yeah.
Feed this back.
Yeah. Sorry about the rain.